other stories here. 2027, Showore sees no opposition, says APC controls all. Showore sees no opposition, says APC controls all. Northeast delegates fight for Shetima's second term with Tinubu's. Northeast delegates fight for Shetima's second term with Tinubu. Okay, that's not clear. Are they hoping to take over the vice president's position? Is that what the fight is about? Well, that story rather is on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper. Petrol price hike, scarcity loom over Middle East tension, tanker drivers strike. Petrol price hike, scarcity looms over Middle East tension, tanker drivers strike. Okay, quickly we move on now to the Punch newspaper. The Punch has here 2027 as its lead story. It says 2027 Tinubu Shetima alliance under fire. Ooh, what's possibly going on there? Tinubu Shetima alliance under fire. Rift deepens in APC over 2027 power formula. NAS caucus backs Shetima. Governors split. Did you know? I didn't know that there was a rift in the first place. I didn't know that the governors and House of and legislators had been given some voting to do, some elections of some sort here. But according to the Punch newspaper, Tinubu Shetima alliance under fire. Rift deepens in APC over 2027 power formula. NAS caucus backs Shetima. Governors split backs Shetima. I thought it was foolproof. I didn't know that there were even considerations of maybe not coming on board with a Shetima as a running mate. But then again, I can be naive sometimes. So pardon me. Right beside the Punch newspaper, Dangote launches nationwide fuel distribution amid tanker blockage. Dangote launches nationwide fuel distribution amid tanker blockade. Brent bounce. Nigeria crude hits $77 as Israel-Iran tension boil. Brent bounce. Nigeria crude hits $77 as Israel-Iran tensions boil. Okay, moving on now from that story. The Tribune is confused. The Tribune has the first half of the paper, or rather the major part of the paper, taken by, remember, the FCT minister still is on his 17-day commissioning. 17-day commissioning. So the Nigerian Tribune newspaper has here, President Tinubu commissions Greater Abuja Water Supply Network today. The Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Barrister Ezenwo Nyesom Wike, CON, and his Honorable Minister of State, Dr. Maria Mahmood, on behalf of the residents of the FCT, welcomes His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's GCFR to the commissioning of the Greater Abuja Water Supply Network loops. Okay, apparently we have a supply network loops 1, 2, 5, and 6 of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Today, that's happening today, the 16th of June, Monday, the 16th of June, 2025, along Airport Expressway by China Chamber of Commerce Building, 2 p.m. Okay, that's it. Beside that, we have Benue crisis. Tinubu directs security chiefs to implement earlier directive. Benue crisis. Tinubu directs security chiefs to implement earlier directives. Pope prays for Benue people, says incident terrible massacre. Pope prays for Benue, says incident terrible massacre. And that's it for the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. We quickly move on to the Business Day newspaper this morning. The Business Day has here Nigeria. It says the promise and pains of floating the naira. That is a must read. It said Nigeria's long dance with devaluation ends in reform-driven float. Remember, the reason why we have the dollar as high as it is was that simultaneous announcement by the president upon his resumption in office, at his inauguration actually, at his inauguration, of henceforth floating the naira and ending fuel scarcity, fuel subsidy rather, and that has been why we are where we are, you know, like we often say. But the business day is giving you an insight, very, very important one, to read as to the summary of after the long custom Nigeria has of currency reform and floating the naira. Right now, what do we expect? It says Nigeria's long dance with devaluation ends in reform-driven float. It talks about the gains and the many pains of floating the naira. For some of us who need to understand what's going on, you should pick that paper, the Business Day paper, read details of that story. Stronger naira seen as oil prices up on Middle East tensions. Unfortunately, with the tensions going on in Iran, Israel, and Pakistan, we are seeing Nigeria's oil prices up. That's possibly a good thing. The aftermath, the consequence of these tensions is giving Nigeria some improved oil prices. FX reserves petrol prices to rise. FX reserves petrol prices to rise. You understand that every single activity around the world affects foreign exchange, and for now it is an up for Nigeria in spite of having the unfortunate incidences or the unfortunate things happening around the world. He says Trump considering banning Nigeria, 35 others from US travel. I hope that doesn't happen. Depot owners hit as Dangote begins nationwide petrol diesel production. Depot owners hit as Dangote begins nationwide petrol diesel distribution. I don't know what that means. Dangote is just but a personal person doing business. If you are not happy with Dangote, you have the NNPCL. You will start up your refinery yourself and decide your distribution chain for your product. But I don't think you can twist the businessman just because his new policy does not favor your business. But that's one thing you should expect with unions in Nigeria. Unions have learned over the years to twist, especially when they know they have the leverage, and so they go all out and do what they can. So the Daily Times, US may place Nigeria, 35 other countries on travel ban list. Ooh, travel ban list from the US. I hope that doesn't happen. There are several people who do businesses from the United States of America. This is not going to be good for us, although the US has consistently been isolating itself, not so to speak, in all the travel ban that it's been releasing. I remember Nigeria narrowly escaped the first batch of travel ban, where some countries were in certain red lines, there were green lines, there were certain colors that represent you having to go back to justify your being considered not to be affected by the travel ban. You had 50 days. Others were cleared not to come into the US. But it's unfortunate that Nigeria has gotten to a point where the US thinks they deserve a travel ban. I'm hoping that that consideration will not affect businesses that are ongoing. The United Nations is a strong country, one that there's no country in the world would not like to align with because of their strong business ties. But it is what it is. APC condemns Benue governor for suppressing protesters over headers massacre of citizens. APC condemns Benue governor for suppressing protesters over headers massacre of citizens. APC is Governor Alia. Governor Alia is APC, coming out here to announce their or refute Governor Alia's condemnation, or what they tag, according to the Daily Times, as suppression of of protesters. Isn't that one and the same thing? I think it should have been phrased a bit better. One that says we're trying to do better, and not condemnation of the governor. Does that also speak to problems going on within the APC and Governor Alia? It would be nice to know, but that story is on page 11 of the Daily Times newspaper. The Daily Times newspaper has that right above the masthead, the nameplate of the paper right there. And below, at the footer of the paper, it says, Supreme Court warns mischief makers dragging justices' judiciary into disrepute. Supreme Court warns mischief makers dragging justices' judiciary into disrepute. IGP extends August 12 enforcement of vehicles tinted glass permit. IGP extends to August 12 enforcement of vehicles tinted glass permit. First Lady salutes Nigerian fathers, calls for greater support. Oh yes! Yesterday, the 15th of June, was Father's Day, and a lot of Nigerians across the world, it was an opportunity to acknowledge and celebrate fathers across the world. I joined a lot of people to celebrate all the fathers, my father as well, everyone who works and does everything to ensure they provide a healthy environment for their children, provide meals for their children, even when they have to starve. We've had several sacrifices that the men do for us, and we are very grateful for that. Sometimes there are situations where the women have to step up to be fathers. It happens, but that does not underestimate or demean the many sacrifices that men have to do just to make sure that children grow up in a safe, secure, healthy environment, that children have that one person who would go the mile for them. There's no feeling as beautiful as a child trusting that my father would come out for me, my father would protect me, which is what the work of a father is. So the First Lady saluted Nigerian fathers, called for greater support. I didn't hear the First Lady's speech or post, so that story is on page 2. She calls for greater support. At this point, I don't know who should get the support. Is this support for fathers, or I don't know. New tax reform policy would block leakages, stop double taxation, says Senator Eze. Okay, speaking about the tax reform, remember we had been going through so much talking about the tax reforms, and there's been engagement, town hall meetings, stakeholders having to understand what the tax reforms really mean and how they can support President Bola Tinubu's tax reform bill act. Immunization exercise may fail in Zamfara due to hunger, poverty. That's coming from the Emir. Immunization exercise may fail in Zamfara due to hunger and poverty. So you want to kick out malaria, you want to kick out airborne, waterborne, all those diseases, but these people haven't eaten. But it's just as important. I can imagine why the Emir is saying that, where he says it may fail because of fear of, because of the poverty that is there, and because of hunger that people feel. We quickly move on now to the Nigerian News Direct newspaper. Here, the Nigerian News Direct is talking about the killings happening in Benue State. It says Benue State, the killings happening in Benue State. Here it says, this is genocide. We are no longer safe in our homes. The youth of Benue State are crying out. That's so sad. Pope Leo, Atiku, Obi condemn silence, demand justice. Enough is enough, our president is saying. Enough is enough, our president is saying. Dangote refinery set to revolutionize distribution with rollout of 4,000 CNG tankers. Oh, CNG tankers. that should be cheaper. That should make transportation and distribution cheaper. When you think of this, you can think of the much diesel necessary to move these tankers. But that's interesting. 4,000 CNG tankers would definitely revolutionize. Why is that a tongue twister this morning? Revolutionize the distribution of diesel and PMS. Jail June 12 saboteurs, Reform Electoral Act now. SERAP is telling the president. SERAP is the social economic group that ensures transparency. Now they are telling the president to jail June 12 saboteurs, reform our electoral act. Our electoral act is always going to go through reforms. Lagos kicks off implementation of e-call up enforcement of Lekki Epe. Lagos kick off implementation of e-call up enforcement on Lekki Epe. That story is on page 21 of the Nigerian News.